Look what I caught. This little bugger was wreaking havoc inside of one of our turtle enclosures. This is a groundhog, a very common mammal here in the United States of America. And well, as cute as they are, they can really do some damage to a property and to your turtle enclosures. And our main priority here is keeping our animals safe, and that includes deterring predators or animals that could destroy things. Now, while this guy is not a predator in the form that he will eat or attack any of the turtles, he makes huge, deep burrows, and he did it inside one of our enclosures where our turtles could fall in. So what we gotta do is we gotta take him at least 5 miles away, release him into a safe, natural area where he can be a groundhog all he wants to be, but that he can't cause problems here on our property. So let's go, and I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about this situation. Look at that. That is a deep, dark burrow, and it very well may be a whole tunnel system underneath here. There could be different chambers that this groundhog or family of groundhogs may have created. So now, there are turtle and tortoise species that do burrow. Desert tortoises, for example, gopher tortoises, for example, that's what they do. They dig burrows, and other wildlife actually seeks refuge within those burrows with them. This is a different case here. We're not worried about gopher tortoises, we are worried about Blanding's turtles. Our endangered Blanding's turtles live in this enclosure, so if they were to come walking along and go down into here, a couple things could happen. If it is a tunnel system, they could find a way out, we would never see them again. Or the tunnel could even collapse on them, and then that's it, they would be killed, we would never see them again. So this is part of what you sign up for when you start keeping turtles and tortoises outside. You've got to keep other animals that may possess some kind of threat out. And that doesn't mean you're only trying to keep out animals that might eat them or harm them. It's just something as simple as this. Now, in the case of a tortoise, like a Herman's tortoise or a radiated tortoise, a groundhog is going to come out and eat that same vegetation that the tortoise is eating, and it could eat all of it on it. So they really can be destructive. We're not going to hurt him, we're just going to release him, but these are the kinds of challenges that you face when you're keeping them outdoors. So we used a have-a-heart trap to safely contain this animal and trap it for just a short amount of time so we can go ahead and release it. But look at that, man. That is a burrow and a half. Okay, so some animals need to be released very far away. Raccoons are a good example. I think it's either over 30 or 50 miles that raccoons need to be released because they will find their way back. In the case of a groundhog, they only need to be released just over or at 5 miles. So I know a really nice natural spot that's off roads where this guy will be safe and he can do anything he needs to do. But there are other entrances that are on the outside of the pen where there could be others. So I'm going to set more traps and make sure that there aren't any others that might mess up the Blanding's turtle pen. This is actually the first time I've had to remove one. We live backed up to a wildlife refuge, so we welcome all animals of all shapes and sizes as long as they're not harming anything. And unfortunately for this guy, he got a little carried away, and I can't afford to lose these turtles that we've been entrusted with. So, I'm just gonna take him to a safe area. All right, little guy. You are going to be free, back in the wilds where there are no turtle enclosures to worry about. It's the wonderful thing about have-a-heart traps. They do not harm the animals. Go ahead, see ya. Thanks for predicting an early spring. All right, we're gonna head back to the house now because we just, yet again, got some turtle rescues, and one of them was rescued from a swimming pool. Okay, this is Tallulah. Tallulah is a red-eared slider, the most common species of turtle across the entire world. Tallulah was rescued from a swimming pool 12 to 13 years ago. It was believed that she was, like many red-eared sliders, just ditched, let go outside of her range, ended up in a swimming pool because when they are just ditched like that, they're of course going to look for a body of water if they're not directly released into one. And a lot of times they will in fact end up in swimming pools in residential areas. The chemicals can eventually kill them, so she definitely needed to be removed from there. She's lived with a woman named Becky for all these years. Becky took incredible care of her, but due to life changes, she needed to find her a new home. And because Casey and I love all living things, we didn't care how common this animal is. We decided to give her a home here, and she could be a wonderful educational ambassador for red-eared sliders and the situation concerning them. Now, what do I mean by the situation with red-eared sliders? Well, they are invasive. In fact, they are found all over the world. And just yesterday, Casey and I were planning for our trip overseas that's coming up, and we noticed that they are actually listed as a native reptile now in a lot of different countries. The island of Corsica in France being one of them. We've been all over the place, and you can guarantee that you're gonna see a red-eared slider almost anywhere these days. And that's really, really unfortunate because those animals do not belong there. Red-eared sliders are a large freshwater species. They can be very aggressive and they eat a lot, so they can often outcompete other native turtles that are in an area. So take New Jersey, for example, where we live right here. Spotted turtles are one of the smallest species native to the United States, and they're found right here in New Jersey. Red-eared sliders are invasive, and there's a lot of them here. So you can imagine how a little tiny turtle like a spotted turtle would have to try to compete with a red-eared slider that is more prolific, more aggressive, and eats more of a wide variety than a spotted turtle would. So those spotted turtles are either gonna try to leave that area or eventually die off. At least that's in theory. For many of us, our love with turtles started with red-eared sliders, and I remember a time when I was just a little boy fitting into Ninja Turtle onesies. And I was obsessed with this species. I would get them for Christmas or save up my money to buy one from a New York City pet store, and I loved them. They're beautiful turtles, and they're only this common in overrunning areas because of us humans, because we're not being responsible. Red-eared sliders can actually make wonderful pet turtles if you can provide them with something like an outdoor pond or at least a big pool. But do it responsibly. They get big. If you're somewhere where somebody's selling baby red-eared sliders or even giving them away, do your own research, and a quick Google search of this will tell you that these animals grow to be between 6 and 9, 10, maybe even 12 inches. Tallulah is not a small turtle, and she's gonna go into the aquascape ecosystem along with Chief Brody, the alligator snapping turtle, and a peninsula cooter we keep in there once she's out of quarantine. The reason she works in there is because she's such a big turtle. There's really no threat being posed to her from Chief Brody, and we happen to know a lot of people that keep cooters and sliders with alligator snapping turtles. The turtles we removed from that pond needed to be because they just were right in that bite size. But sliders and cooters, as long as they're adults, generally do really well with alligator snapping turtles. So that's where she's gonna go. But you see the kind of commitment they take. They really need an outdoor pond. If you can give them that, then maybe a red-eared slider is for you. But don't buy one. Go to your local rescue, because I guarantee you they've got red ears. So Tallulah is in a great situation now, but she came along with yet another animal. I'm gonna introduce you to that one. Look at that. This is Tavi, and he came from the same place that Tallulah did, and he is a beautifully grown, captive bred male eastern Herman's tortoise. Now you guys, if you've been keeping up with our videos, you've actually taken in quite a few eastern Herman's tortoises within the last few months. They happen to be one of my absolute favorite species, the Herman's tortoises in general. They're very easy for us to house here because they come from Europe where they get all 4 seasons. So they can live a life outdoors 365 here, which is really awesome. So we have all these wonderful planted pens that the tortoises get to live in, and a lot of them are dedicated to Herman's tortoises. So once Tavi here goes through a quarantine period and we know all is well, he'll go into one of these pens. Eastern Herman's tortoises are a beautiful, very hardy species, nowhere near as common as the red-eared slider, but I certainly wouldn't call them rare by any means. And it's really awesome and a breath of fresh air to see them nicely grown like this, because we don't always get them in such good condition like this. A lot of them are really banged up and pyramided from being kept too dry and fed an improper diet. That's not the case for you. You have a good past and you're going to have a bright future here. But guys, you don't necessarily need to have big, crazy, beautiful planted pens like these. I know a lot of you might be limited in space, so I'm going to show you a really interesting way that you can house your tortoises outside either temporarily or permanently. So let me get started on that. This is a chicken coop. But we're not going to use it for just chickens. We're going to be using it for tortoises and also show you how you can use it for iguanas and other large lizards that aren't too arboreal. AV Tuvin is an awesome company that you guys have probably seen us do a lot of videos with. We've been promoting and helping them out with their tortoise enclosure for indoor keeping, but can also be used outdoors for quite a while now. And we decided to team up yet again to show people how chicken coops can actually be used for a variety of animals and not just chickens. I'm covered in ants.
Cool, what kind of ants are they?
They're little black ants, I don't know. Okay guys, This in particular is the Avituven Air 46 large chicken coop. So we've got quite a few boxes to start assembling this thing, but I'm gonna get started and you're gonna see how beautiful and awesome this thing is. Looks like a chicken coop, doesn't it? That's because it is. And while we do keep chickens inside this thing, you can use it for reptiles, believe it or not. This is the Avituven Air 46 large chicken coop with a run. The thing measures 12 feet by 5 feet by 5 feet, so it is not small. And the reason it can be suitable for reptiles is because if you reinforce the bottom, whether you cement it in or dig it into the ground or make some kind of frame, you can actually keep things like rhino iguanas in here. You guys all know Rocky and Blue. We don't keep them in anything that's all that much different than this. They're in a very large dog kennel. Something like this works because it's fully enclosed. They can climb around in it, but they're not as arboreal as something like a green iguana, so they don't need to get that high. You can put rocks and logs or driftwood in here, and they of course have that ramp, which then opens up into the hen house there. And the iguanas can even use that. You can install a heat lamp in it for cooler days, or you can let them use it to get out of the sun. Because even though they're cold-blooded reptiles, sometimes they do want to get out of that sun. Now, as far as tortoises go, that these kind of coop style things actually work for allowing tortoises to graze. You can give them supervised time outside, or if you can reinforce it, you can actually leave them in it because they can use the under area of the hen house to get out of the sun. So you can actually exclusively use it for tortoises if you want, as long as you're willing to make some modifications. And if you want to see how I built this thing, make sure you go to our TikTok page. TikTok what? TikTok. And if you guys want to see how I put this thing together, which mind you is very easy, make sure you go to our TikTok where I go through the entire thing. There's all different types of ways that you can keep reptiles. You don't have to do everything based on one method only. Sometimes you gotta think outside the box or outside the pen. If you don't have the room to do it, to build something really big and spacious, you can at least give the animals some supervised time by having a coop like this, which can also be moved around to different areas. So keep thinking, don't give up just because you may not have access to certain products or certain space. Something like this is really great as long as you can make the proper modifications to it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, but I'm gonna leave you with a little bit of a cliffhanger because the build coming up in next week's video is insane.